the mind, the human organism actually is capable of extraordinary feats of artistry, um, capable of extraordinary feats of strength even. When I was about 16, a friend of mine was in a car crash and his brother tore the door off the car in order to get to his girlfriend who was trapped in the car. There is a inhibitory function of the frontal cortex over what we do, right? And there are ways to access extraordinary powers of the mind. I'm particularly interested in neurodiversity. For example, there's lots and lots of cases of autists who've been able to do calendar calculation, or like, for example, my grandfather's great uncle, who was a great rabbi, he could count the leaves on a tree or the bricks in a wall at a single glance. So I think the first thing is just to be aware that we are capable of so much, yeah? And then what is it that interrupts our power, yeah? So our power coming out and our perception coming in, they're two different things and they're both filtered. And they're filtered, like you say, through, for example, belief systems would be one. But it goes deeper than that. One of the chapters of that book, Neuroapocalypse, is a comparison of the Japanese and English language. And they are set up in such different ways that the world that a Japanese engages with is simply different to the world that someone who isn't raised with that language engages with. An example of that would be if you show an animation of fish moving around, then and you show that to an American will nearly always say there was a big fish and then start talking about what it was doing. Whereas Japanese, the first thing they'll nearly always say is it's an aquarium. And then they'll start describing the relationships between the fish. Mm-hmm. And then, which is fascinating, if you stop the animation and 5 minutes later you question those two people about if a particular fish was in the animation, it makes a difference to the Japanese if you put it on a different background. So if you put it on a different background, Japanese take longer to answer the question and they make mistakes more often. Whereas an American, doesn't matter what type of background it's on. And for reasons that are intrinsically linked with how the language works, how it deals with nouns, how the context influences the meaning of a sentence, that perceptual apparatus works differently. And you see it across Japanese culture as well. If in their Zen garden, for example, you've got a single item, like it might be a rock, and then in the sand around it or in the gravel around it, you have it all kind of raked into lines which reflect. So that relationship between the individual and the group, which you see in Japanese society in many places as well, in the way that they behave in a collective manner. You even see it in their science, actually. This is what drew me to a fascination with slime molds, in fact, is that the Japanese did the best research in slime molds, right? They found out that slime molds are extremely intelligent in a way that Western sciences hadn't. And that's partly because the way the Japanese language constructs the world is it has a way of talking about something, intelligence or energy beyond the person, like ki. In Japanese, it's ki. In Chinese, it's chi, and we tend to think of that as an energy. But you can't even have a normal conversation in Japanese without using the word ki. Ki ni naru means I got interested. Ki ga awanai means we don't get on. Genki is how you say how you doing. Genki, original ki. So there's this kind of energy or intelligence which moves between people, which is embedded right in the language. Yeah, if you start to talk about chi or something in English, it sounds like you're talking about something spiritual, whereas in Japanese, it's like, it's literally part of their everyday Every 15 sentences or so, they're going to be evoking this transpersonal spirit, we might call it something like that, although they wouldn't call it that. They did the same in their study of primates. Europeans were looking at the mother-child relationship in chimpanzee groups, whereas the Japanese started mapping out the really complex relationships between apes. So I guess my point is that just the language can totally change the way that we perceive the world. So one way of opening that up is by becoming bilingual or by studying a language. And you see with, for example, Hong Kong Chinese, who have learned both English and Chinese, if you prime them with like pictures of dragons and temples and then ask them a question, they give you different answers to if you prime them with images of cowboys. Okay, and it's on this axis of the individual and the collective. Yeah, obviously psychedelics are a good way of opening that up as well, because psychedelics move the edges. So an example of that might be, you might be having a tough time in your, maybe you might think, my wife is an asshole, might be a good example. Then you take a big dose of mushrooms or something, and then the edges are redefined. It's like, actually, do you know what? Maybe she's not an asshole. Maybe me and her are together making an asshole. And then you can start to respond intelligently rather than reactively to the situations that we face.
That's very insightful. So for people who don't want to quite dive so deep, is there something kind of mundane that can help people explore these imposed limitations, as it were, or these limitations that stem from culture and language, to try and kind of connect with their own true self? Is there a meditation or a technique that you've found that can be helpful for that?
Yeah, meditation is fantastic, but it's difficult. It requires training. Buddhist monks sit there for time to get to those states where the temporal lobes are functioning less than they normally would, and the frontal lobes are functioning more. The beauty of hypnosis is that, well, the beauty of guided meditation is you've always got an object which is there, and it's a little bit more interesting, let's say, or easily fascinating than, let's say, a candle or a mandala or a mantra or the traditional meditative technique. So you've got a voice there that you're listening, and it's going in different directions. And if the hypnotist is any good, they will be generating that language in a way that is designed to elicit your interest, because they will have listened to you and they say, okay, is this person more conceptual? Are they more visual? Are they more, what's their sense pattern? So that's one thing about hypnosis. And then the other thing is, because we use specific linguistic techniques, it's very, very easy to go into trance. Yeah, and sometimes you'll meet someone who'll say, no, I can't do that. I don't know, when I hear that, it feels like, imagine you went to a doctor, no, my blood doesn't clot. I mean, it may be a case that you're a haemophiliac, but, have a go and see. So I have on my own website, which is called Transform Hypno, Trance with the C. I have a whole bunch of downloads which you can go and check out. Some of them are free, and just dip your toe into trance and see what happens, see what opens up. If you do that a few times, then your life could change quite spectacularly.